What's going on, everybody? I want to hear back from some people. So Justin wanted me to gather a couple things together and talk to you guys about something. So I wrote it down on a little piece of paper, and I want some more people to join. Zach, can you hear me? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear. Okay, cool. Hope Chris Kreider can hear as well. So it's just us three right now, but I'll go ahead and start it off. So one thing I kind of wanted to talk about and get some discussion about, I hope that you can pitch in here in a second, Zach, is, how people approach closing a deal or making a sale. I think people may spend a little bit too much time on convincing the client that the product is what it is, but the approach that I take to it more than anything, I think, is, I was kind of thinking about this the other day. I was like, it just kind of came to me. I believe that when I'm selling to people, I'm more focusing on instilling confidence in them that I know what I'm talking about, because at the end of the day, when they hang that phone up, they're going to just hope that they talk to the right person. So my goal when I'm talking to people and trying to sell them on things is, as I'm explaining the products and explaining how my services will help them, I'm really, really bunkering down on instilling confidence in them that I know what I'm doing. So I think that's more the approach that I take to selling more than anything, is getting it across to them that they're talking to the right freaking guy. So if anybody wants to touch in on that, I kind of just wanted to talk about it. But don't only have a couple people in here right now, so it's hard to get a conversation going. If anybody wants to say anything about it, please do. Another thing I was going to talk about is future pacing. Every time you come up on somebody who, well, that's weird. So future pacing, and then, instilling confidence in the buyer, in the prospect, right? What's going on, Zach? You're connecting audio.
All right, I'm connected audio now.
Nice, man.
I'm a class act. As you can see, I have my drive-through back here.
That's great.
Doing awesome.
Nothing like a little croissant biscuit.
Right.
From
yeah. So I've got a multi-camera angle here, but no,
maybe
give me 1 second.
Maybe mute your computer.
I muted the computer. I'm going to log off the computer.
Yeah, I would just do that for sure.
All right, we're in. All right, so yeah, I think you're right. I think the client needs. I think the big takeaway here is we transfer our feeling about the product and about the sales process onto the client. And you can't get rid of that. You can't not do that. It happens. Your mindset of what's going on during that phone call, or, in-person conversation, for us, it's always a phone call, but your tenor and your belief in how that conversation's going gets transferred over to the client. And so if you're afraid, then the client's going to feel that fear.
Absolutely.
And they're going to feel that, so you do have to be confident. And like you said, you have to be confident in yourself. You have to be confident in what you're doing and that you're providing them the best service that you can. And something that we like to tell people is, look, somebody's going to sell that client. Okay. I mean, who's going to sell the client? Like, somebody's going to show up and somebody's going to have the confidence, and it's not going to be based on product, because the client knows nothing about product. The client doesn't get any of that. All they know is whether or not you are comfortable, and I had a sales coach that once said to me in the past, because he was listening to my calls and correcting and critiquing me. And he's like, Zach, if you show up at a store and you're buying cell phones, and you ask the guy, hey, I'm looking for a cell phone. And he goes over and he's like, well, there's AT&T and they've got like towers and stuff. There's Verizon and they have towers and stuff. And There's Sprint. They don't really have any towers, but you still get a phone. So and there's no confidence behind
Or you could say, man, we got the best cell phone reception you could get.
Right. Or you come alongside the client, you say, look, what's more important to you? Service? Is it your phone, the service going to the phone, or the price? Oh, price above all else. Okay, you won't be able to make a phone call, but we'll hook you up with Sprint. Okay. It just is what it is, and then the client knows, okay, my personal feeling and consideration was taken into consideration. And this person has really, so if you're not asking good questions and you're not getting to know that client, they're going to know that this is a half-hearted attempt, because how could you possibly know what the right fit for them is if you haven't asked the right questions?
For sure. Absolutely. I was just thinking about that. Justin told me yesterday to figure out something to talk about in this here call. And, I really think that that's something that a lot of people might lack, because for me, when I first started, I didn't know a lot. I'm not one of those people that's going to say, I got to sit and study and learn everything first before I dive into. I dove in and I did pretty damn well first week, writing, 15 apps, 20 apps first week it was the AEP, which really wasn't that good because it got better and better and better as I learned my products. But the confidence that I had, knowing that the people behind me and the knowledge and value that I had at my fingertips, that confidence got me a lot of sales. I want to say my first week, I didn't go, I think during AEP, I had about 3 or 4 days where I didn't have, some good action. Most days were, because I dove in, I don't know if you know this or not, but I started in October pretty much. My first policy was at the end of September. So I didn't know a lot. And I had just gotten my license at the end of August. So my confidence and the natural ability to instill confidence in my prospect is what got me 157 apps my first AEP. And I'm going for about 300 to 500 this AEP. And I probably will get more than I'm expecting, because I'm transferring to phones. Phones is where it's at. I'm not doing any face-to-face unless I have to.
Yeah. So we're a telesales operation, obviously. And I'll tell you, the number one person that sells over the phone in every major call center is almost the person you least expect, because you'd think that the person with, like you said, the most knowledge and the most product or whatever. When I got into this business, I started off, my first thing that I was doing, I was selling term insurance, And so when I first got into this business and I was selling term insurance, I was terrible over the phone. I was scary. You wanted your grandma to call me because I wasn't going to sell her anything. Because the second I got some hesitation, I'm like, okay, all right, yeah, let's get off the phone. I don't care,
That awkward. You didn't like that awkward.
Yeah, it's getting a little weird here. I gotta go. And I'm like, hey, so here's a policy. Here's how much it costs. This is how much coverage you're gonna have. How you feel about that? Does that sound okay? I'm not really sure.
Yeah, like you weren't confident in your ability to make sure she was taken care of.
Exactly. And so that's the thing. It's like, when you can have that confidence of, I'm going to help the client, I'm going to present a product, and I'm going to present one product passionately. I think that's the other thing too. Sometimes people get in their head and they think that they absolve themselves of having to make the decision if they give the client choices. Okay. And they're like, hey, I've got 5 policies. Let's talk about every iteration of every policy. And
that's asking them to say, okay, well, I got to think about this.
Yeah, because a confused mind never makes a decision.
Right.
And so you're never going to have that where you're offering like 5 different policies. And I, originally did that, and I had a sales coach that gave me a script, and I just started reading the script word for word. And the way the script was written, and this was for term insurance, but we offered like a non-med product, and then we offered like a fully underwritten product. And that's just how it worked in the script. So I said, oh, great. I got a terrific policy here for you. This policy is through Forrester's Financial. Back in the day, I was selling Nassau Re, but great policy through Forrester's Financial. And it's going to be $200,000 worth of coverage for $600 a month or whatever, And, 40% of people said, oh, okay. All right. Non-med went, paid the extra money and stuff. And then occasionally people would be like, oh, that's a little pricey. And then I would make the second offer. Okay. Well, if you're okay getting, nurse coming out, poking you in the arm, we can maybe get that price down a little bit. Let me see what I can do for you. But I sold a ton of non-med because I didn't give the option at the beginning.
Yeah.
I sold one policy with conviction. It's a great policy. Nobody's going to come out, poke you in the arm, anything like that. They're just going to review over your medical history. You'll have a policy within a couple days as long as you get approved. Price for that is this. And then if they're like, no, then you move on to the next thing. And you have to do that for Medicare Advantage, especially over the phone. Medicare Advantage, it's so hard to get that scope of appointment squared away. So you have to have it nailed down to one product before you bring the scope into it and you really sell it. It helps you really narrow down your what you're going to share, because you've got to, so many people over the phone can't handle the Sunfire and tech scope or the email
I know
scope or
what you
whatever.
mean.
If you have to do it telephonic, you got to offer one product. So, how do you do that? How do you do that?
Telephonic. Do you do a lot of telephonic scopes?
Yeah, so we did. The easiest one by far is, as of pre-AEP, we're talking about this. So who knows what will be released out? But somebody at United Healthcare was apparently like sending people cookies or something, because that is the easiest telephonic scope of appointment for independent agents that exists.
Nice.
100.
I'll check it out. I want to bring Adam in and kind of let him know what we were talking about. Adam, when I first, came into the call here, I was just there's just a couple of us in here. My brother wanted me to talk about something in particular. So what I did was I just kind of put the topic out there of, can you hear me? Can you hear me now? I don't think you can hear me. Oh, let's see.
I can hear you.
Zach can hear me. Adam, thumbs up, thumbs down. You can't hear me. Huh. That sucks. Testing. You can hear me now? Good deal. Okay, so what I was saying was, when people are selling, and I kind of just want to know what your take is on this, when people are selling and trying to educate or close or just in their pitch, I think people might get lost in the sauce and the weeds a little bit, and it needs to be more of instilling confidence in the prospect, their confidence in you, right? So it's really the rapport process, but I think that a lot of people don't really take that approach, because when I first started, like I was saying, I think you might have came in as I was saying this, but when I first started, at 157 apps, my first AP, street level agent, not door knocking, but at door-to-door sales, right? It was all in the field. And I did very, very well, but let's be honest, I started 15 days before. I started gaining my Medicare knowledge a couple weeks, before, but I knew what people needed to put them in the best situation. I knew how to look their drugs up. I knew how to look their doctors up. And that was extremely, if I passed that confidence in myself onto the client, it was extremely easy for me to book that appointment, show them that I do know what I'm talking about. This is the best thing for them. This is why it's the best thing for you. And by the end of the meeting, they're confident in my ability to make sure that they're taken care of. So I just kind of want to know if you had any thoughts on that, just the ability to instill confidence in your prospect. So I think it's the most important way to sell.
I completely agree with you. The biggest thing that I rely heavily on is the education aspect. The more that they realize that you're there to genuinely help them, the better. And by displaying, just like you said, confidence in your knowledge of what in the world you're even talking about, because there is so much confusion, so much just being bombarded with, we're guilty of it too, because we have to, we're mailing stuff out. We're, running ads, doing things like that. And they're getting just inundated with a lot of different pieces of information. They're not really sure what to believe and what to think about. And I mean, I literally got a call just the other day. I keep getting calls. I'm sure you guys do. What's this about $144 I can get back on my Medicare? And here I'm in Arkansas, and when it comes to the whole Medicare Advantage thing in Arkansas, there are some partial Part B give backs, but you're giving up other, benefits by getting that partial Part B give back. And unless it's full blown Medicaid, you're not getting 100% of that back. And because they are getting this every day, and Joe is telling them that they might qualify for it and things like this, that really puts a lot of just confusion in their mind, which makes that, fortunately enough, I've developed a relationship over the years with a lot of my clients that they want to call me first and ask me what's going on. And I'll tell you one thing that I've started implementing, because this is causing a problem, is now, John, here's why I'm recommending this plan over all these other plans. Okay, so first of all, this plan over here, the plan that I'm recommending covers all your doctors, covers all your prescriptions at the lowest possible price I can find them. The reason I'm not recommending this plan over here or this plan over here is because of these other things. So that way, when a telemarketer gets a hold of them and tries to sell it to them, they realize, no, my agent's already talked to me about that. I'm good, and but again, just like you said, just instilling that confidence of when you know what you're talking about, it just comes across. And if you're really not unsure, get sure. I remember now I started back in 2006. I used to work for Humana. And the very first thing I did when I got home, read this sucker cover to cover, highlighted stuff, put little tabs in it, and I carried this thing with me. And whenever there was a question or a piece of information that somebody didn't really know, ma'am, let me show you right here. You got this book yourself. It's right there, and that helps out a lot, because then where the rules, where where the information's coming from. And by reading, I mean, literally, if you haven't read that thing, now, of course, I haven't read it cover to cover like I did in the very beginning, because it's all the same information on a different page for the most part, other than a few little things changing over the years. It's the same information, but you know exactly where to find it. You know what's in it. You know how to prove what you're talking about by, trust me, but let me show you, let me verify it with you, trust but verify. So anyway, but that's my take on that exactly. And I would think that, now I don't do a lot of over the phone telesales, but I do it from time to time. As far as I understand it, I may be wrong, but as far as I understand it, if you have the ability to record yourself on the phone conversation, I'm almost positive if you just simply read the scope of, just a generic scope of appointment, and you get them to verbally agree to talk to you and you're very clear on it, I'm almost positive that is still good enough. You don't have to use United Healthcare. Now, I may be wrong about that, but that's
I'm not sure. I think that I don't know. Zach may know a little bit about this, but
so I'll tell you my understanding. Don't report me, bro. My understanding of this and what we train our agents on is that there are allowances for that for call centers if you have that process approved through CMS. Call centers. Every carrier has an IVR, which is a voice recorded scope of appointment process. Aetna's is the hardest, and United Healthcare's is the easiest. If you can get somebody to do a text scope of appointment through Sunfire, by all means, please do, because that I use that as like kind of like the shot across the bow to see if they'll be able to enroll that way as well, because I want to do the enrollment that way. I personally don't. I know a lot of agents go through the carrier portal so that they can get the so that they can go ahead and get that extra money for like the health assessment and stuff. Personally, if it takes me 10 extra minutes to do an application through a carrier portal versus just doing it through Sunfire, and even if I'm getting paid a little extra money to do the health assessment in the long run, especially during AEP, I would rather get it done on Sunfire, get it done quicker, and move on. Give up that extra money and reach more people quicker, is my personal. Now, I'm not saying that you're wrong. I've always heard that you have to do the IVR process, but I would be very, very happy if you're right. Very
Well,
happy.
like I said, I'm almost positive. I may be wrong about it. I've never done it. Don't again, kind of like you said, don't hold me to the coals on this one, but
Well,
yeah,
I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to go to our compliance attorneys and run it by them and see.
okay.
We'll have an answer.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I'm sure there's, I mean, the way I understand it, you're getting them to state their name, address, phone number, everything like that. And if you just read that thing verbatim to them, I've again, from my understanding, that is what I've been told, but I've never tried it.
Mhm.
So, but at the same time, I've got Radius Bob, and it has, they put in a a text and email feature for the scope of appointment. There's a lot of, several of the carriers that I use, locally, they use, what's that called? Well, crap, my computer's doing something stupid. Anyway, Ascend, which has a text and email feature to do their, to do an electronic scope that way also. But, it still happens where, sometimes, again, if you don't have the knowledge or the ability to do that telephonic SOA, you may just have to mail it to them and have them mail it back to you. Now, of course, during AEP, that's not ideal.
And
But
I think that Ascend is terrible for telesales. Just my personal opinion. I think if you can get somewhere, just about anywhere is going to give you access to Sunfire. Get to know that system really well. Add yourself as a contact in Sunfire and screenshot going through the process, because it does take some explanation over the phone. But if you go through the process, if you set yourself up as a lead, you send yourself a scope of appointment, you sign your own scope of appointment, you click the FAQ button in the bottom corner and kind of walk yourself through the process, then you'll know when you go through that process and you say to the client, you're going to need to type your name type your name in as a signature and click send, and if they can get through that, then generally you're going to be able to baby them through the enrollment as well.
Now, Zach, I've never used Sunfire, at least that I'm aware of. And of course, my upline, they went into, they got bought by Integrity. So
Okay.
they use that Medicare Center. Is that the same thing?
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
It's Medicare Link, I think they call it.
Yeah.
But it's I think I want to say I used to use Medicare Center when I first started. Or not when I first started, but in the middle of, I've only been doing this for like, 10 months. So like in the middle of that process, Justin switched over to Medicare Center. Or it's actually at the beginning. I feel like that's irrelevant. Medicare Center, Sunfire, same thing. Not a very different process. Sunfire is amazing though. I really enjoy it. Do you have a CRM, Adam? Like
yeah, I've got Radius Bob.
Okay. I've heard of all these different ones. I just know that Agency Block is freaking amazing. Chris Schottmeyer, I don't know if you're using that over there. I see your name. I actually had an event I tagged you in the other day. We talked to one of the same people. But Agency Block is fire. You can utilize that damn tool so well. Activity after activity. Every time you talk to somebody, if you don't if it's not a lost cause, call them back at some point. And your dashboard, if you can fill your dashboard up every day, I mean, the activity is just insane. I really, really enjoy it. One thing I want to touch on, sorry, you got something?
I was just going to say real quick. So if your upline uses, if you're tied into Medicare Center, Medicare Link, Medicare app is Connecture. It's their version of Connecture.
Mhm.
Some really like Connecture. Some really like Sunfire. Some like each for different things. If you're new getting in, I would go with Sunfire if you have a choice. If you're tied into the other the other big name in the industry, you're going to have access to your Medicare. Your Medicare is Sunfire as well. It's the exact same software. So that's the main software most people are using. So it's well worth, especially if you're going to get into any form of telesales and even face-to-face. It's very easy to process enrollments right through Sunfire. So it's a very worthwhile, if you're getting in and doing, especially any telesales, it's a worthwhile system to use.
I will say this, Zach. You mentioned during AEP, that you specifically don't necessarily do the get that little IV, the $50 extra, whatever it is, just to be able to process things faster. I will say this. I mean, I've in the past I've had to do those things simply because I needed to be paid right then and there. I needed something, So especially if you're in that position, go ahead and get it done. Don't
100% agree.
You got Christmas coming up right afterwards, Thanksgiving, and you're working for relatively 3 months for absolutely nothing. And you got to feed yourself, feed your family, stuff like that. And it does add up, and you do get paid in a couple weeks. So you actually are making something. I would also,
I was just thinking that because you are submitting enrollments through Sunfire.
Mm-hmm.
Most, a lot of carriers aren't going to let you do. You have to have the system set up to go back in and do that health assessment separately.
Right.
So if you're face to and 100%, if you're face to face and you have an enrollment platform right there that they can click through and sign right on your computer, and it goes right into a health assessment, you might as well, because it's free money.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. And I understand where you're coming from, because I mean, especially over the phone and doing all the extras, and just for the ease of not having to go to each individual carrier, go through their platform, and then do that health assessment, especially over the phone like that, and you're doing a lot of them. Totally agree with you. I mean, it just makes sense, because one of the biggest things that, where I live in Arkansas, at one point there was maybe 2 to 3 carriers that you'd even deal with. Well, now there's a buttload of them, and each carrier has their own way of doing things, and it's like, oh my gosh. But yeah, learning one system proficiently and doing that same, exactly what to expect. That also builds that confidence that we're talking about, is knowing your own, knowing what you're doing to do the enrollment. I remember my very first insurance gig ever. I worked for a company, it wasn't even Medicare, and I sold a long-term care insurance policy my very first week out. That's all they taught us how to sell. It took me freaking 5 hours for that whole presentation application. This is in the home. I had no idea what I was doing. I had to call my boss, 14 different times. Pretty embarrassing. Got the sale. I don't know whatever happened to it, because that was 100 years ago. But anyway, yeah. So.
It's all right, though. You got uncomfortable, and then you got into a situation where you grew a little bit. That's what it takes. So one more thing I want to kind of talk about, and I mentioned it at the very, very beginning, is future pacing. So what is some strategies that you guys utilize to, let's say yesterday I ran into somebody that was 61 years old. It was a telemarketer call. Actually, wrong data. It happens, right? But I told her, look, I'm not one of those people that is going to say, oh, you're 61 and be done with talking to you, because you will need my help at some point. So I'm going to create a profile for you. I'm going to stay in touch with you over the next few years. And if you ever need my help, I can give you a hand. And then what I'm going to do on that follow-up call is I'm going to make sure that her under 65 health insurance is taken care of, and I might be able to get some cross-sell opportunities on it. So I want to know what y'all's strats are with future pacing and people that you can't help right now, but you know you can help them, whether it's a year, 5 years, 7 years down the road. I have activities in my A to Z block for 2027 for people turning
Nice.
65. So, it's just something that it's not something that you should do. You must do it. I feel like if you do that down the road, you're going to start seeing them pop out every month. You're going to have you like, damn, awesome. I got another lead for, somebody turning 65 that I talked to 2 years ago. But what's y'all's take on that? Anybody have anything? Chris, Adam?
Yeah,
Zach?
I can talk.
I need room for improvement. I'll just put it that way.
All right.
So I was first taught future pacing when I was 12 years old. My parents owned a heating and air conditioning shop, and my dad went to some sales conference when I was like 12, and I went with him. And that was one of the only lessons that I walked away with from that sales conference. And I was using it to sell fireplaces, somebody'd walk in and they'd take a look at a fireplace, and I'd walk up to them as a 12-year-old, and I'd say, hey, where do you think you'd put this in your house? And they'd start describing for me where I'd go in their house and you're creating that image. And I like that picture of it, because you are creating the image of whether it's a process or a product, what their life is going to look like with that. So when I future pace, it's very important over the phone, because they're getting a phone call and they don't know who you are, why you're calling. And the second you ask them, hey, do you have some time for me? They have to ask themselves, well, first of all, do I have time? Do I have time for you? Do I trust you? How am I going to get off the phone? What's going to happen here? So a lot of times, if you can set time-bound expectations, hey, my name's Zach. They catch you at a bad time, because I just need like 5 minutes to take a look with you, see what you have going on to make sure I can't help improve your situation. That's maybe not exactly what I would say every single time, but just to give you like a feel for, something I might say to a client. By saying, did I catch you at a bad time? They're saying no. Okay. Safety and saying no. And just think about it. If you're a parent, I'm a parent. My daughter's behind me right now trying to open the door. And she walks up to me and asks me for something. It's much easier for me to say no than it is to say yes, because I know that yes has other things coming behind it. But all you're doing is you're showing them a little bit of picture of what is going to come. So future pacing, what is it that we're going to experience? Okay. I'm going to walk you through step by step exactly what you need to do to make sure that you've properly protected yourself against what can happen when those financial bills start hitting, and when you get somebody on the line that has, you're going to get people that are like, oh, I'm healthy. Terrific. That's the time you want to start making decisions while you're healthy. You're really smart. You're reinforcing. You're really smart. You're really smart to continue talking to me, because your life is going to be so much better because you want to get this sorted out now. You're explaining to them what they want to do, what their life's going to look like when they work with you. Great. You're 61. Terrific. I'm going to walk through the process of you transitioning off of your current coverage. Ask them the questions. Ask them about their current coverage. Ask them the questions about, you might get a life insurance sale. You might get a sale of them transitioning off of, or you might get a cancer sale. Terrific. Now's a terrific time for you to, you're telling me, we're having a little bit of a conversation. We're finding out what you want to do in that discovery, especially if you find out they've had a friend, family member who's had cancer in the past. Maybe you get a hospital indemnity sale. Manhattan Life has a really good under 65 hospital indemnity product. You can get that product right up front, offer them a little bit of protection, get your foot in the door. And now once that person is a client, you can market them whenever, wherever. Like, it's like a bad Shakira song. Like you have that person at that point, And so, like, get in, sell what you can, really look at how you can sell the entire client And as you're going through the sales process, don't talk about yourself. Talk about them. Talk about what their life is going to look like with this product. Talk about what they're going to experience because they're going through this journey with you. And I say this to clients all the time. If something happened where you had no clue what was going on when it comes to your hospital bills, hypothetically, let's say that the medical system gets wonky. That's a joke, right? Of course, it's crazy. Nobody knows what's going on. But let's say you really get sick and you don't know what to do and you don't know what's going on with your bills. Who would you call? And you let that sit. You wait for your answer, because your answer is probably going to be, I don't know. Is the person from, not naming names, but Select Quote going to be there to answer your questions when you have, or whatever? I mean, I'm not here disparaging Select Quote. They have fine agents, but some major call center, whatever, is Joe going to personally call you and check in on you to see what's going on when you're having a hard time using your coverage? When you have a hard time, when something happens, and that's what I say to people, look, when you run into a difficult situation and a hard time, you're going to be looking like hell for my phone number. Whether you took your policy with me or not, when stuff really comes down to it and you've got a question and you're wondering what's going on and how you're going to pay the medical bills and what's covered, and you get a bill you don't understand, you're going to be looking anywhere you can for my phone number. So I recommend you write it down now.
Boom.
That's
Drop a
beyond
bomb.
awesome. Yep,
That might
that's
be
beyond awesome.
impressive
So-
for some people, but
So a couple of things here to leave you guys with. Some of you joined late. Instill confidence in your prospects. Make them so confident that the product you are telling them about is the best thing for them, because you know this shit. And honestly, what they want, let's be honest here. What they want is somebody to rely on when they don't know what the hell's going on. That's what they want. That's what you were just saying. Who are you going to call when you have a situation where you don't know what the hell to do? I can be that guy for you. I do this stuff all day, every day. You might as well talk to somebody who knows what they're talking about and who is going to make sure that your prescription medications are in the best situation. All your health coverage is good to go. So we leave with that. And then we leave with future pacing. So Adam, I know you said you needed to work on that. If you want to direct message me or something like that, I would love to give you some ideas. I don't know how I can't remember the name of the software that you're using, the CRM bot or something.
Radius
bot. Is that what it is?
Bob, B-O-B,
Bob.
Book of Business. Yeah.
Let me look that up. I have never checked it out before, but can you create activities and stuff within that?
Yes.
Okay. And you have like a dashboard that does that.
Mhm.
Like if that, okay. So that's all you need to do. When you talk to somebody, you just need to say, okay, look, I can't do anything for you today, but I'm going to keep you in my CRM, get a little bit of information. What's their address? What's their date of birth? Which you might already know that stuff. I don't know what kind of leads you're working, but
Right.
it's really amazing. I've been doing this for 10 months and I can tell you right now, my dashboard's got about 20 for the next 7 days, 20. And then the next 7 days we'll have 20. And when I get done with those, sometimes I have past due. I mean, it's all about contacts and activity, but y'all know that. But that you can create that activity and create that lead flow for yourself by saying, okay, well, this person didn't answer. I'm calling back in 2 days. This person said they weren't good right now. They were, out cleaning out the pig pen. Okay, I'm gonna call them back on Saturday. What's a better time to call? You know what I mean? So it's all about activity and pushing that forward. So future pacing is huge to me. I think it's probably one of the top 3 most important aspects of a salesperson. I think that number 1 is activity, number 2 is confidence, and number 3 would be future pacing and lining that activity up for other contacts, right?
I
So
will say this, as far as like doing some instilling confidence in the person you're speaking with. I remember as years ago, I might have pushed real heavy on it. The guy was really reluctant to even meet and everything like this. I said, look, I may or may not be able to help you, but it is Yeah, absolutely. 100% in your best interest to go ahead and take a look at what I'm talking about here. If again, it is better to have listened to me and decided on that, as opposed to saying, not knowing what you're making a decision on. And I really, and that's something else, just, it really is in your better interest to at least listen, take a few minutes and listen to me.
That's
And
100% correct. That's exactly, you
line-
sound like me. Sir,
the line
look, I can tell you right now, I live, sleep, eat, and breathe Medicare. I promise you. If you let me talk to you, give me 5 minutes of your time, I can show you how I can really, really make sure that you're always in the best situation. I'm very, very authoritative. I'm probably sometimes too authoritative, but
the line I use with people is, if you spend 5 minutes with me, I'll be able to tell you if I can help you, and if I can't, no one else can, and you'll have peace of mind that you're in the best situation you can be.
Yep.
that's all it
Exactly.
takes right there.
Yep.
Well, guys, I'm calling it a day. Everybody go out there and sling some apps.
Can I ask a quick
Take
question?
care, y'all.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, earlier when y'all were talking about Sunfire, what's your system when you do an Medicare Advantage app in Sunfire to do the health questionnaire?
You can't. There's no option. So if you want to do that, just continue doing it through the portal or through the Ascend and Lean, which is what we would use. I don't know. You're down south, so you probably got some other options. But Adam's
If you're
got some.
talking, as I say, if you're talking Humana, if you happen to enroll in Humana, they do have the health questionnaire that's outside of any application, so you can submit the application, whatever, and then Humana, you can go into your Humana portal. I can't remember exactly where it is, but anyway, it is in there. And basically you put in their Medicare ID number and a few other little pieces of information you're going to have already anyway, and then go through it and you're done.
Yeah.
So it's a whole separate, it's a whole separate tab on in the beginning.
Yeah.
I need to check that out because
it's totally separate. So if you write a Humana Medicare Advantage plan, you can do it on Sunfire. You can do whatever application you want to use, and then go in and actually do that health assessment separately.
every damn carrier needs to have that, because if they
Absolutely.
did, I'm not gonna lie, I would do it. I might would even schedule follow-up calls for somebody to do it.
WellCare uses it too.
Yeah.
Okay.
WellCare has a separate one too, Zach?
Yeah, the system's called Reveal. I mean, when it shows up, when you first contract, you'll get a Reveal invite that's good for like 37 minutes. And you have to sign in and sign up for it and stuff. And it feels very spammy when it shows up. So you kind of have to know what you're looking for. But if you call WellCare and you call Humana and you call enough times to get somebody on the phone that knows what they're talking about, they'll send you a new invite for it or whatever.
Which
and get you
with WellCare would take 4 years.
Reveal.
So don't worry about it. All right, guys. I'll talk to y'all soon. Y'all have a blessed day. Go kick some ass.
Take care.
Bye, guys.